Thank you, everyone. I invite Reverend Eric and Ellen up to light the chalice while I share a slightly amended chalice lighting by Christian Schmidt. It may sound familiar. It takes a spark. It takes fuel. It takes air. And it takes a container to hold them all. It's only with these things that we make fire. It takes a call. It takes learning and experience. It takes love. And it takes community to hold them all. It's only with all of these things that we make a minister. Today we light our flaming chalice and we celebrate the ordination of Reverend Eric Severson to the Unitarian Universalist ministry. Woo! Our opening words today are by Leslie Ahuva Fales. All that we have been separately and all that we will become together is stretched out before and behind us, like stars scattered across a canvas of sky. We stand at the precipice, arms locked together like tandem skydivers working up the courage to jump. Tell me, friends, what have we got to lose? Our fear of failure? Our mistrust of our own talents? What have we got to lose? A poverty of spirit? The lie that we're alone? What wonders await us in the space between the first leap and the moment our feet, our wheels, however we move our bodies across this precious earth, touch down softly on unknown soil? What have we got to lose that we can't replace with some previously unimaginable joy? Welcome, one and all, to the long-awaited celebration of Eric's ordination, Reverend Eric's ordination, and full fellowship. So, whether you are here in person, or whether you are there, or wherever the cameras are, there, online, joining us, we are so glad that you could all make it here today. I'm Shannon Sonoris. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm honored to be leading this evening's program. Tonight we'll hear from a number of people who've had the pleasure of working with Reverend Eric. Some of them will share wishes, others will tell stories, but I have a prediction that you'll hear a common theme in them all. And I wrote it down in this envelope right here, and I'll get it out at the end, and we'll see if I was right. Our reflections tonight begin with a message, from Reverend Dr. Lisa Presley, a lifelong Unitarian Universalist who works for the Mid-America region of our faith. Lisa's words will be followed by a blessing from Reverend Drew France, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Central Michigan in Mount Pleasant. After that, you'll hear from the 4 presidents of the board of directors who have had the pleasure of working with Reverend Eric. Myself, Beth Sperry, Sasha King, and Tom Bailey. Then it'll be Reverend Eric's turn to say a few words. After the chalice is extinguished, I'll have a few housekeeping items, and then Reverend Eric and Ryan Thomas will end our program with a piece called Weave Us Together by Rosemary Crow. So now it's my turn, since we're punting. Just like our own lives, there are times in a congregation's life that are busier than others. And that's how I remember it being right after Eric officially started at UUFOM. Busy. It was 2019. Sarah Schultz, you were president of the board, and I was coasting along as president-elect, which is like vice president, for those of you who don't go here. Reverend Connie was our interim minister. We were getting ready for the special congregational meeting to call Eric, and we were planning for needed updates to our bylaws, which could be tricky. In the larger world, we were preparing for the 2020 elections, having just gotten over the 2018, including local and national options. It was a contentious time. And to support our beloved, and my favorite local candidate, I stepped into the role as board president 7 months early, so Sarah could focus on the election. The next thing I knew, we'd called Reverend Eric as our minister. And fast forward to August, the arrival of delightful Reverend Eric and Ellen. We made it through 2019, and we were on our way to Eric's ordination service and celebration, scheduled for March 29th, 2020. And then the pandemic arrived. On March 11th, 2020, Eric emailed the ordination service participants to postpone his ordination to an unknown future date. In the email, he wrote, "After waiting 25 years, I can wait a few more months to protect those I love about." Yeah. The weight of the responsibility to keep my people safe from a very real, very fatal virus was a heavy one, and one for which there was no way to prepare. It really changed me. I believe it was Eric who first asked the question, 6 months into his tenure with us, who are we willing to put at the risk of death? A sobering contemplation. And an easy answer, no one. Less than 2 weeks into March 2020, a special announcement was emailed to everyone. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak 3 counties away, and out of care and concern for the most vulnerable among us, all large group activities are being suspended immediately, at least until April 20th, 2020. We were hopeful, right? Ever hopeful, ever hopeful, right? That was a tough call. Close. That was hard. Eric shared recommendations from the UUA and updates on how other UU churches were handling the rising concerns. He worked with the worship team to consider out-of-the-box options for worship and worked with everyone to keep our community safe and connected. Little did we know what came next. During the May 19th, 2020 Zoom board meeting, we were interrupted by all of our cell phones going off. We were being alerted to the significant crack in Edenville's dam that would likely cause Downriver Sanford Dam to break. It said, Midland City residents west of Eastman, south of US 10, need to evacuate due to a dam collapse. We were gobsmacked. What now? And then the board moved into action. Who are in the path? Who needs rides to safe places? Should we open the church as a sanctuary? Of course. We made a plan, took action items, and reached out. It was beautiful and frightening. And another example of the board, including Reverend Eric, coming together, utilizing our resources to care for one another. And while the people recovered from the flood, what we now know as the pandemic would continue to test us for the next 2.5 years. If the first 8 months of his tenure wasn't trial by fire, I don't know what is. On Saturday, October 17th, 2020, I had the honor and the joy to ordain John Eric Severson. It makes me cry. Reverend Eric continues to impress me. I know you intended your first year to get to know us by sitting back and observing. You're right. But the universe had other ideas for you and for us. Now, I've hardly talked about all that Reverend Eric has brought here and barely made it through his first year. Nevertheless, I believe that year was huge for us as a congregation. We were nervous about this new guy. Who knew what he had up his sleeve and what he would make us do? Silly me. We're better having found you. Definitely, Reverend Eric. I wonder, if you have a glass in front of you, would you raise it with me? Because I would like to share a toast to Reverend Eric, surviving his first year trial by fire. To Reverend Eric. Now Beth Sperry's going to come up.
Wow, look at this Look at this room. My name is Beth Sperry. My pronouns are she, her also. And I had the honor of serving as Shannon's lieutenant in 2020 as president-elect, and then moving on to be president of the board in 2021. I'm going to talk a little bit about bringing you to your full fellowship. According to UUA rules, in order for Reverend Eric to achieve full fellowship, evaluations by the board, our committee on ministry, and Reverend Eric himself were required 3 years in a row. But how do you come up with a review of someone that you've already fallen in love with? Someone with whom you've been in the muck and mire of crisis, cleaning out flooded houses, marching for racial justice, navigating a terrifying, death-dealing virus in order to keep our community safe and supported. The board knew for sure that he was the guy for us, but we had to fulfill our obligation. The evaluations had 7 sections: worship and rites of passage, pastoral care and presence, spiritual development for self and others, social justice in the public square, administration, serves the larger UU faith, and leads faith into the future. And then each category had 3 subcategories: our general comments, comments on congregational participation and how that all worked together, and this was the tough one: recommended continuing education and action steps, like we should tell him how he should be better. I don't know. The 2 years I served on the board, we each drafted a section. Then the board discussed, edited, and finalized the report. But I repeat, how do you write a review of someone so lovable, so humble, so perfect for our congregation? How do you find any constructive criticism? The first year, all we could think of was, we want more of him. Because in his early days, Reverend Eric led by following, listening, and observing with an open heart. He was exactly what we needed coming out of the trauma of the past few years. Gentle, funny, self-aware, and upfront with his humanness. So from my point of view and how I remember it, 2020 of the pandemic was, in a way, it was easy. We simply shut down. Shut the building, Zoomed all the meetings. Reverend Eric and the worship team worked miracles and created Zoom services that kept us connected. 2021 got a little tricky. Pandemic fatigue and vaccines promising relief led to folks crying out for in-person services and meetings. Our invaluable COVID-19 task force worked with Reverend Eric and the board as we navigated our way to opening up. This took longer than most of us hoped it would. We know people were disappointed, longing to be together again in person. And how glorious it was when it finally happened in September of that year. We had our first in-person service in the building. And look where we are now. The chairs are full, almost full every Sunday. Parties and pasties are happening, and new people are coming in the door. So I'm going to take my former board officer hat off and speak from my own perspective alone, trusting that some of what I'm saying will resonate with you. This fellowship has become a spiritual refuge for me, not just because I have a community with whom to practice my own specific spiritual path. Reverend Eric and the worship team elegantly weave together readings, music, rituals, and messages that create a worship space that lifts us up, challenges us, and makes us think. Every Sunday, I walk in with one frame of mind and walk out lifted by spirit. It's simply magic for me. So by now, most of us are familiar with the new proposed UUA values. We've seen the graphic with the values set out in a spiral with love at the center of it all. That's you. You're simply the love in the center. And now we'll hear from Sasha. Sasha King was president-elect when I was president, and then she moved on to be president in 2022, right?
Gosh, I'm no expert. I've not observed a lot of ordinations after all in my time, but I think it's safe to say that this was anything but an ordinary ordination process. We've heard so many reasons already tonight of just how out of the ordinary this was, but that's to be expected, I'd suppose, because when I think of the adjectives that could describe our man of the hour, ordinary's not high on that list. So here we are at a party that's been literally decades in the making, and and how cool is that, you know? I mean, there's tons of things I could say. I am not the gifted wordsmith that so many of my colleagues are. So I've decided that my best contribution would be artistic expression. So here goes. E is for being an extremely good listener. R is for being ready to help at the first notice. I is for being incredibly observant. C is for being so very compassionate. S is for Sasha is making a really bad joke because there's no way that we want to go through 8 more letters of bad acrostic poetry. So instead, let's just say S is for seriously, though. Eric Severson is a great minister, and I am not only glad that he is here to serve this congregation, but also I am honored that I get to be a member of the congregation that is a small piece of the puzzle that depicts his amazing journey. A journey that is not culminating in this celebration, but instead is a journey where we are gathered to cheer on Eric in his ongoing journey as a Unitarian Universalist minister, a Unitarian Universalist minister who has achieved final fellowship. The reasons to celebrate today are compounded. I take great pleasure in saying, congratulations, Eric. You have worked hard and continue to work hard to be a living example of grace and resilience. You deserve every bit of admiration and praise that you receive this day and every day. And thank you.
Well, at long last, you get to celebrate together. I'm Lisa Presley, Congregational Life Consultant for the Mid-America region of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and your congregation's primary contact from the UUA. Although I can't be with you in person, I am so honored to bring you greetings from the region and the more than 1,000 congregations in the Unitarian Universalist Association, as you celebrate both the ordination of and the achievement of full fellowship by Reverend Eric Severson. The journey from the first inkling of ministry through to the point of full fellowship is a long one. It takes many twists and turns. Rev Eric, I know that this was true for you as well, and yet you persevered. What is often held as a folk truth is that the journey makes us the ministers we become. And yet at the same time, I often wonder whether or not we have to have so many twists and turns. But nevertheless, you persevered. Perhaps it helps us stay strong in the ministry to have had so many growth opportunities along the way. When we hang in beyond when mere mortals might say, I'm out of here. Many of us have shadowed nights of the soul, where we come to face who we are, and we get to test the mettle of our commitment to our calling and to Unitarian Universalism. It's as if the test can push the volume button on the calling up and makes it even louder for us to ignore. I'm so glad that you, Reverend Eric, haven't said, I'm out of here. The Unitarian Universalist Association and this, your precious congregation, are better for you being here. Your humility, your care and commitment, your gentle laugh, your presence are what we need as we live and do ministry in this divided and fractured world. Your presence helps us knit back together the fabric of community, and you help us all take the next step forward to creating and restoring the beloved community. Reverend Eric, I wish you all the best this day and throughout your ministry. And to you, the good people of the UU Fellowship of Midland, I thank you for your willingness to be here, to hold open your doors wide to all who want you and need you, to speak out for justice in your community. And I thank you for holding and nurturing and partnering with Reverend Eric as your minister. Together, you hold strong the chalice of Unitarian Universalism in this part of our world, shaping and holding the flame of possibility of love and justice. Thank you for being here, and thank you for allowing me these few moments to send our best to you as you celebrate together.
Congratulations, Reverend Eric. I celebrate the growth that you have enjoyed. I celebrate the journey that you've been on. Most of all, I celebrate for the congregation, the community, and the world, because you bring healing and love and compassion everywhere you go. May that continue as long as you practice your ministry. Blessed be.
I think I can see. Can you see me? Another short joke, I tell you. Story of my life. Well, Shannon ended her talk with a toast. And it occurred to me that in some respects it would be kind of nice maybe to have a bit of a roast, too. But I'll be gentle. It'll be short and sweet. I'm Tom Bailey, and I'm the current board president for the fellowship, and I also served on the search committee that brought Reverend Eric and Ellen to our fellowship. You know, we considered a number of other candidates as well in the search, in the course of our search. So, you know, a question might come up with, what was it that made him special? What were the reasons that we chose him for our minister? Perhaps he was the best looking, the funniest, indeed. Does the room light up when he walks in? Perhaps the best hair. I think it was probably all of those things. But also, this is on a serious side, he was not the youngest of our candidates. And I think, and I really think that may have had something to do with it. That sense of maturity that he has lived a lot of his life already, and had those things to offer. We brought each candidate in our search process into Midland for a weekend together with their spouse or their significant other. And during that time, they came in and they would meet with us, show them the facility here, and let them see learn a little bit about Midland. And also then we would we interviewed them and they interviewed us, and it was basically an opportunity to get to know one another and know something about them. Then on the Sunday of that weekend, we took the candidate with us to a new separate Michigan UU church where nobody knew us and nobody knew the candidate. It's called a neutral pulpit. And in that case, and in that venue, the candidate then would preach a sermon, basically do the service. When we met Ellen and Eric and Ellen in their visit, he came across as quiet, contemplative, maybe a little shy even. And later we came to understand that he's really surveying the situation before he says too much, which is always a good idea, I think. His neutral pulpit was at a church in Grand Rapids, and when we got there in that pulpit, this quiet, reserved, soft-spoken man became animated. He did a children's story that was just crazy. It was wild. And the rest of the service and his sermon really knocked our socks off. We were really excited meeting him and them, and that weekend and over the weekend and traveling to Grand Rapids with them, things really looked good. And then we heard back from an unofficial source, Ellen, that they loved us too. Yeah. Reverend Eric entered ministry later in life. He and Ellen raised their family, took care of their aging parents, got life under control, and then went after it. So who is this guy? Who is our settled minister? Settled? I don't think that applies. I mean, who packs up everything in their mid-50s to move to a new state, a new town, and a new state to start a new career? Hardly settled. More like ready for a challenge. And boy, did he get a challenge. We've already heard about it, and we already know 8 months in, and the pandemic was here, and then the bridges or the dams broke. Sasha, I think, or Shannon mentioned a trial by fire, and it might also say it was in part a trial by water. But he and we pulled it off. Reverend Eric, we're here to celebrate your ordination, 2.5 years late, and you're receiving full fellowship earlier this year. Beth already explained what full fellowship was, but I wanted to at least add that the UUA Ministerial Fellowship Committee provided feedback coming back once the reports went in. And I read one of them, and I was kind of incensed because I thought, this is baloney. This guy is good. We don't need this. But but Reverend Eric took that stuff in full stride and worked hard to implement those suggestions, and genuinely with energy, and it's really something to admire. So earlier this year, he got the news that this fellowship process is now complete. He's now full fellowshipped, if that's a word term. But this is a big, big deal. And I just would close by saying, as we've come to know him over these years, we've learned that this soft-spoken, quiet, kind of shy guy is a thinker. That he leads by helping others lead, and that he cares deeply about us, our community, and the things in our society that need fixing. We searched for someone that would fit our congregation. Boy, did we get lucky. Thank you for choosing us. And congratulations on your ordination and reaching full fellowship. Thank you. So we got one more item of business, or I do here. I want to invite Shannon up and Reverend Eric. We have a certificate of ordination that was prepared 2.5 years ago, but never executed, and it needs to be executed by the then president of the board. So I'm going to pass this on, and I'm going to get out of here. So. You brought one, okay.
I know, like, he came up to me earlier and he's like, and I said, sure, yeah, I could do that.
So this certificate lists, this certifies that John Eric Severson, having been granted ministerial fellowship by the UUA, was duly ordained to the Unitarian Universalist Ministry upon vote of the member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, ordained by the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Midland, Michigan, on the 17th day of October in the year 2020. And it lists all of the participants in the service, and I won't list them here, but we have 2 copies awaiting our then president's signature, Shannon Sonoris. One for you and one for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Thank you. One for you.
Get to the office.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I think I may be last on the docket. So last night I watched the Zoom video of our October 2020 ceremony, and I was moved by all the coordination, the care, and the intention that everyone put into it, into that never to be duplicated event, right? I cannot thank my wife Ellen enough for her care and love and support and sacrifice for getting us to this point. Thank you to Ellen. Yeah. And thank you to the staff, the volunteers, the lay leaders, the friends and colleagues, and loved ones also for getting us to this day. Back in 2020, as we've reviewed today, you ordained me and called me as your minister. You pledged to walk with me, to work with me, to laugh and cry with me, to sing and pray with me, to listen, learn, and teach. You offered the cooperation of your hearts and hands and your resolute support. You acknowledged that with humility, wisdom, and compassion as guides, we will grow together. You asked me to help you realize what you are and who you can become. You asked me to change the world by changing your lives. And frankly, that is a tall order. I, in turn, committed to providing moral leadership, religious insight, and spiritual guidance to help you deepen relationships, pursue meaning, and embody the spirit of service, to invite you into spiritual and personal growth, to challenge you, to value those whom you see as different, and to help you live in right relationship, to inspire you to action, to promote justice and dignity for all, to support your hopes and dreams, foster your diversity of thought, which is amazing, and to encourage your spiritual journeys. I hope we have done at least some of this in the 4 years we've had together so far. So with joy, I embraced the ministry to which you called me. Then as now, I give myself freely to the work of love and will do my part in healing a broken world, speaking truth in love, and ministering with a gentle hand. My prayer, hope, and intention continue that our time and our work together will be joyous and meaningful. I again offer my hands, heart, and mind in partnership to this congregation. And I look forward to serving its vision, mission, and covenant for many years to come. Thank you so much. Thank you. The group hug will commence. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So let's see. I think Shannon has some closing words.
So I talked about that little envelope, right? Let me get it. And so what you'll see here on this envelope is gratitude. So much gratitude for having our gift. That's the common thread that I anticipated. The other thing, let me switch. Simon, I'm going to switch. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is there's this gift that we have for you too. You want to come up? Come on up. You said gift? Yeah. Yeah. Come this way. So the gift that I have is some time away. on a lake. It'll be beautiful and so much fun. And we came together to give you some mad money so that you could do it up, so that you could splurge, so that you can have breakfast in bed, so that you can have all those things. And I have a really cute card that's this big, and if it's on your table, I would love to give it to Eric. It's just a little card, it's an off-white envelope. I don't know what I did with it. But good thing it had an IOU in it, not the money.
No.
I'm just gonna go with that because that's how we're rolling.
Mm-hmm.
We love you. Aww. We want you to take care of yourself. Have so much fun. Bring people, dance and sing, take pictures. You guys deserve a break.
Thank you.
Then don't bring people.
Very good.
So there you go.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you for playing with me too. Thank you. Lavalier. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our closing words. Our closing words. Okay. All that we have been separately, and all that we become together is stretched out before and behind us, like stars scattered across a canvas sky. We stand at the precipice, arms locked, together like tandem skydivers, working up the courage to jump. May we trust in the possibility that our bravery to walk through the fear of not knowing could result in unimaginable joy. Now it's time for a little housekeeping. Out. Out. After the postlude, you're welcome to stay and visit if you'd like. Maybe you'd like to help clean up and break down. Thank you. We accept your help gratefully. Cleanup will start when you hear Jim Scott singing Common Ground at 8 p.m. I wasn't sure what time we were going to end, so until then, enjoy visiting with one another. Thank you to everyone who helped make this service possible. The Board of Directors, the UUFOM staff, the aesthetics team, the choir, and of course, our tech support, who's helping us sound our best and stay connected with those who can't make it here tonight, Simon Cook. As it should be, it was a team effort. And finally, we are grateful that you were able to make it, that you were able to make it. This was a momentous celebration of our esteemed and wonderfully human in all the best ways, Reverend Eric Severson. It is time for our postlude from these two gentlemen. Ryan and Eric will offer Weave Us Together by Rosemary Crow.
So thank you again, everyone. We chose this aspirational song that I hope we all can live into. I did want to say you might recognize Ryan from the October 2020 video service. Ryan provided some of the music, along with Julia Willison, Melanie Willison, and Ellen. So I wanted to thank all of them as well for their assistance in making all of this happen. So yes, this song is Weave by Rosemary Crow. I invite you to join in the chorus as you become comfortable with it. Let me find it. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together, together in love. We are many textures, we are many colors, each one different from the other. But we are entwined with one another in one great tapestry. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together, together in love. We are different instruments playing our melodies, each one tune to a different key, but we are all playing in harmony, in one great symphony. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together, together in love. A moment ago, we did not know our unity, only diversity. But the Spirit in me greets the Spirit in thee, in our great family. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together, together in love. Weave us together, together